Hi there, thanks so much for joining Paul and myself for another one of our live streams. It's fun to be doing it up in Studio A, your old studio, Paul.
Yes, it is. It's changed a little bit since then.
But, and your fancy new studio is coming along very well, isn't it?
Yes. There's more footage of that going up on my vlogs soon.
Paul Thompson Music, check out what he's doing. I was on the way here today, Paul, I was thinking, a lot of people go into the music industry for kind of to get on the stage and the adulation and the fame and stuff. But the quiet kids at the back of the class, they tend to go into media composition to step behind the limelight. And I always just think it's really odd for us that we were the quiet kids at the back of the room and here we are kind of every other month doing live streams.
Yeah.
It's kind of so totally nerve-wracking.
Unnatural feeling.
But today is an exciting day, is it not, Paul? It's been a really long journey, and it's kind of... I think what I love about doing these live streams is I feel like we're kind of sharing with the composing fraternity and sorority, and I think this is something that people will really value.
Yeah.
Let's roll VT. Absolutely mental. I'm proud for kind of three reasons, which we'll go into. But do you want to take us through this, Paul?
So basically, this is our eDNA engine now in its own plugin, and this collection of sounds, which we call Orbis, is like a kind of world synthesizer. It's powered by these incredible recordings made by David Fanshawe, who was an incredible composer. One of, if not the first real crossover artist combining music from different cultures around the world. And he made these amazing recordings on his explorations of the world, befriending musicians from all over the world. Now they are in this plugin, and we've also gone through and treated a lot of the sounds in all kinds of different ways. So you've got a massive, over 3,000 sounds in here, a massive collection of really, really useful stuff, and some very, very special different recordings.
Absolutely. Paul, we did do a David Fanshawe library before, which was more of a contact-based phrase library.
Yes.
And it's not that, well, it's that and more and much more.
Yeah, this is, so the sounds in here are about double the amount of sounds in the previous library that we did. But we've taken it kind of really beyond that, and this is a lot easier to use because you can search for the sounds, lots of different ways to find exactly the kind of sound that you want, if you want a vocal sound or you want a flute sound or a percussion sound. But then we've kind of really gone to town on taking that amazing source material, the sort of organic, really amazing quality recordings, recorded to tape on location, and then turned those into these incredible kind of variety of sounds and textures and pads.
But should we just dive in and play a few sounds and show off the eDNA interface, which I think our design and engineering team have done. Congratulations if you're watching, anyone from designing engineering. I think you've just done an absolutely seminal job there.
Okay, so this is quite interesting because you've got something where you can crossfade between the original recording, which is just a looped kind of gong performance, and then going into something kind of similar, Tibetan bells, but with some distortion on. And this is before you've even kind of started messing around with the engine and started looking at all the different kind of creative options that you can use in there. So we could have a quick look just before we keep playing stuff. So you've got a massive section of master effects, and when you click on these, You get all the different kind of controls in there. But each of the bays have their own set of effects as well. You've got aux effects that you can send to, so there's a lot of stuff going on there. And then you've got this amazing gate sequencer as well, which
quite snarly, isn't it?
Yeah.
But let's just go back a step, because basically you can obviously browse through the numerous presets here, and we've got this new filtering system that's absolutely fantastic. Just a tip for people who buy it: if you just want to go see everything that's available, just make sure you're kind of unfiltered there. But also, where creation of your own sounds is concerned, we've got these two bays. It's almost like two oscillators, isn't it?
Yeah.
With this just immense selection of stuff, which again is filterable there.
One other thing which is quite interesting. So if we scroll down here and we go into these one shots. So the difference, obviously, loops are material that is looping, kind of has a rhythmic element to it. And the one shots are single sounds which you can play across the keyboard. You can also get up menus, so you can see all the different countries there. So you've got a menu of all the sounds, so you can find different sounds that you want and then go into the playable versions, or just mess around with them within Bay A and B, as we just showed you. But here's an interesting thing to look at. So this is a conch shell performance. So we've got two different treatments again of this. One that we've called hollow, which has got a variety of our kind of special sauce on it. And then a clean...
That's gravy. Always gravy.
Yeah, gravy, sorry. Some rich gravy for you. And then a clean version as well. So just check this out. So you can hear those two different kind of styles of sound that we're moving between. But we've also got a slightly different version where we've taken some of our more extreme sounds that we've created from the raw material. So here you've got the breakup, which is where the sound just starts to break up with distortion, and shimmer, which is like a really beautiful, bloomy kind of reverb. So you can hear there's different textures that you can move between, but this is still, there's no other effects on this yet. This is just still the raw sounds that are in there ready for you to start kind of mangling. So we could, turn this into a kind of giant pad. Let's go to the master effects, put on a huge convolution with a nice long, here we go, 20-second delay. Let's put a bit of pre-delay on it as well, maximum, and then maybe a little bit of flange, not too much. And then we can kind of get it to, we'll actually turn up the release as well, and then you can turn it into this kind of giant. So you can hear there, there's tons of creative possibilities. I mean, it literally took 10 seconds.
No, I think that's also the key with this kind of material is, we're very inspired by, say, for example, Hans Zimmer's score for Gladiator and stuff.
Yeah.
And these elements are very much, they should be produced, shouldn't they?
Yeah,
They're never
definitely.
kind of presented like, I think that it would be a terrible shame if people thought this is kind of a natural history thing. It's to add a sonic kind of expansion to your score, but you always need to work it in with all sorts of magic, don't you?
Exactly, yeah, and there's tons of stuff. So you could just get, if we go back to here and we just load up one of the menus, for example. So let's load up a One Shots menu from India. So we've got a variety of different sounds in here. Different flute performances on this one. You've got, within India, you've got a load of, let's select that here. You've got a load of different, obviously there's all the treatments that we did, but if we want to just look at the clean sounds, then you've got all of these menus of sound. We could change to menu D, for example. And so we've got some nice other bits and pieces in there, some shruti that sounded like. But what you would then do, if you were using that within the context of a kind of a production, is you would stick maybe a bit of delay on it, a nice big reverb, and just get it to kind of bloom. I mean, you don't have to do that. This stuff is great intimately as well because it's really beautifully recorded and played. But the secret to getting that kind of, like you say, the gladiator sound is to kind of toast it up a bit, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that the romance of this project that I really am hoping people embrace is that a lot of this stuff are from people's cultures, languages and traditions that are actually now extinct. And the idea is to create a bed of DNA for us to take forward and be forward-looking with, not as a kind of traditional instrument. And that's why I think the eDNA experience is so important a part of this.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've been using it this week, really enjoying it. And for me, the thing that I've found really exciting is it kind of takes your music on a journey. There are so many unexpected things in there. I had to do the trailer that you saw earlier. And I think what was amazing for me, I always get so nervous doing the trailers because there's a big team of us and I usually don't want to let the side down and all that kind of stuff. And what I found is it was just great because I had a blank page and within minutes of just scrolling through sounds, I had a kind of a fully formed idea and just knew exactly what sounds I wanted to add in and all of that. But it's diverse, it's percussion. And I think some of the pads are absolutely gorgeous as well. I've actually got this one up here. It's unmistakably from an organic source, and I find, as we've experienced over the years, and you've explained the physics of it to me once, but I've forgotten. That is, it's synthetic sounds made from an organic source, mix in with orchestral elements a lot more effectively than, say, that Juno over there. Yes,
they do. I think it's because of the there's just so much more chaos in anything organic. To try and reproduce that in a synth is, well, it's just so much harder. Mm-hmm. But also, why would you? No. Just use this. Just use the actual, the thing.
Absolutely. So I've got Tundra. I've got my favourite, the Flautando, both the basses and both the top and the bottom, and I've just activated both of those. And I think it's just nice to show how.
Nice.
I think what these are also great for is if you're working in 5.1 and you want a kind of a rear signal, so you can have the live orchestra at the front and then you put these kind of effects into the rears. It's kind of quite a stunning effect, I think.
Yeah.
So, Paul, what's, for your workflow and stuff, what are you looking forward to with this library?
For me, it's a combination of things. So I like to have... I like to mix in a few things where it sort of sounds kind of like something, but not quite that thing. So whether that's anything as simple as flute, but it's something that, is kind of like a flute, but it's not like the flute that you associate with.
Well, because you have associations with orchestral instruments.
Exactly, yeah. So things like that where I would kind of tuck that kind of stuff in and I'd, like we said, produce it so that it's, it sounds kind of really lovely and glossy and expansive. And also the thing that I was having the most fun with when I was making some of my presets in here was basically trying to build synths where it had the feel of like a CS80 or something like that, but was built from these things like they're the amazing playable Tibetan gongs, which were actually from recordings that David made. They were used in 7 years in Tibet. So we're talking about stuff, a lot of this, of these things have been massively influential over the years. And I know that also he had some of his recordings were used in Gangs of New York and lots of other kind of film and TV because he was a film composer and wrote for TV as well. So he had that sensibility, he had that ear, so he knew what he was listening for when he was recording.
Created the first hybrid score with African, as we understand hybrid scores with African centres.
Yeah, it was an amazing, people had kind of explored the use of tape in musique concrète, but this was a whole another level from that, which was basically to to combine orchestral, massive festival chorus, the tapes with recordings, taken from around the world, and then kind of rock elements as well. I mean, it was all kinds of amazing stuff blended into this, mind-blowing, I think, when people first heard it in the 70s. But he had been experimenting with this kind of blending of music from different cultures for a while before that as well. So yeah, I think for me it's kind of subverting what you expect to hear, and there's a lot of really amazingly usable stuff in here.
For me, it's a get out of jail free card. It's just like, when you've been given, can we just do another revision, try something different, and it's just like a treasure trove of absolute amazing chocolate biscuits. We should probably have a listen to a couple more sounds, Paul, but I think it's also worth mentioning the quality of the recordings, the original recording. I mean, that's the thing, is like if you start with a great starting point, it's always going to, the finish is always going to be so much more gratifying, isn't it?
Yes. So David was extremely gregarious and likable, and I think when he met musicians, they were so fascinated by what he was doing that they wanted to make he was able to kind of create recording conditions almost everywhere he went. And he had this he had a variety of setups that he used, but one of the setups that he used was a music stand with mics positioned in a kind of probably, I don't know, maybe 60-degree angle. And then he would get right in amongst the players, and he'd got his headphones on, and he would just find the exact sweet spot where it sounded amazing. It's like the archetypal thing where, every interview you see with a recording engineer, they're always telling you, stop messing around with an EQ and actually move the microphones to where the sound is good. And that was exactly what David was doing all the time. He was moving the mics around to find the exact position where it sounded really good. And, we've got a couple of examples here where you can really hear the recordings coming through and the kind of quality of the recordings. So let's have a quick listen.
That's insane.
Yeah, so it's real depth there. I think it's just there's a lot of the sounds where some of the sounds where we've treated the original sounds, if there's a big ensemble, actually make some of the more interesting pads, because contrary to what you kind of might imagine, even though it's a more complex sound source, there's often a very strong fundamental. Mm-hmm. And so once you've got that, you've got this kind of really unusual kind of spray of what your brain interprets as harmonics above that. And I just think it just makes these fascinating sounds. For example, something again that sounds kind of like an organ.
Oh, it's just insta-cue, isn't it?
Yeah. There's tons, and the thing is, there's so many kind of source sounds in here that you can just roll your own for days and days. I mean, it won't be a situation where everybody recognises the organum incredibulum. Why did I make that so difficult to pronounce? You only have to make a few tweaks to the original presets if you want to just make it your own. But there's so much
Absolutely.
stuff.
And stuff we haven't talked about. Any of you familiar with eDNA, you'll know about all of the kind of motion stuff that you can put in as well. But we haven't even talked about like the oscillate mixer you can actually automate. And of course, the gate sequencer that you spoke of earlier. A lot of reverb there. So it's kind of a world of opportunities, really. I think one of the things I'm really excited about is actually to hear where people take this stuff.
Yeah.
Knowing that this material is from this genuinely, I mean, don't want to be too over romanticise it, but it is from a lost world, really.
Yeah, there's lots of lots of material that can never be reproduced. And David had this saying. His kind of saying was, "I love the world," and I think he just loved the idea of people from different cultures making music together. It was a real driving force for him.
As an evolving thing, not as a history lesson.
Exactly. Yeah. That you could use, existing music to create new music, and it could be a constant kind of cross-fertilization. So in some ways it's an incredibly proud moment to be able to, to be able to kind of enable that process for composers around the world, via this plugin.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a real honour to develop, has it not, Paul?
Yeah.
And, great, fantastic congratulations to the team. As always, we've made a host of materials. You've done a fantastic walkthrough, I believe.
Yes.
Excellent. Not in your new studio, though?
No, still here.
Okay. I've done a contextual. I did the music for the trailer at the beginning, and I've done a contextual talking us through how I made that, and how, for example, with that middle section with the GUIs showing and stuff, how you can use it for quite edgy, harsh stuff. Yeah. If there's anything else you'd like to find out about Orbis, I'm going to be making a video next week, and to mix things up a bit, I was going to take some, questions or any queries that you have, fire them into our socials. We'll be keeping an eye on those and come up with a video that'll be coming out sometime next week. But it's been fun.
Yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed
Excellent.
watching Orbis, and we can't wait to hear what you guys start doing with it.
Thanks ever so much for sticking around.